It's so windy and I haven't vlogged in ages, so I feel really stupid. It's Infinity War day, going to be filming throughout the day, just off to Forbidden Planet because it's new comic book day. Big day ahead.
I'm not gonna lie, stop putting everything in German! Jamie, where are we going?
To see Infinity War?
Yeah, this is like the biggest squad we've ever taken to the cinema. Oh, everyone's in the video. Everyone's on my YouTube now. Everyone.
What's that?
Everyone.
Oh no, don't make me
I
laugh.
promised an instant reaction, Morgan, and that's exactly what they're going to get.
Oh, don't know.
What's your instant reaction, Morgan?
Fucking terrifying. Oh, fuck off.
I'm distraught. Instant reaction. It was such a good film until the end, and then I died inside. Okay guys, so I'm home now. It's almost 6 in the morning. You kind of saw what we got up to in the day. You saw kind of our instant reaction, which was just we didn't know what to think. The way I want to review the film is I've just written down all the key characters and the stones. The plot's actually very simple. It feels complicated when you try and go, oh, well, what was each character doing? When you literally look at each different team's plot line, it's very simple, it's very tidy, the plot is very well done, the time management is fantastic on this film. I've made all my notes, I'm ready to sit down and just talk about the film. I'm gonna do that after some sleep. I'm still in that stage of like, I don't know what I just saw. Hey, so I got some sleep, so I'm gonna finally do the review now. And this is the second time filming it, because my original plan of just having the list of characters and going down the list and talking about them, I did like 3 characters and the video was already 25 minutes. And then I realised what I need to do is be able to just talk through the plot, what happens, and then sort of bring up those character points as we go down, as well as talking about the stones. There will be spoilers. I'm talking about the plot, I'm talking about the whole film, the surprises, everything. So there will be spoilers from this point out. As I mentioned, I think time management is done very well on this film. A lot happens. However, the character introductions and jumping between the groups is all very seamless, all very well done. And even though there are a lot of characters that don't really get a lot of screen time, what can you expect? You have a cast this big, not everyone is going to have 20 plus minutes of screen time. The film opens up and Thanos already has the Power Stone. I was a bit upset by this. The fact that they'd gone, oh, he got it earlier this week. Would have been nice to see him get it, but you know, okay, so he decimated the Nova Corps, I guess, and got the Power Stone. The Power Stone, for the most part, obviously just makes Thanos a little bit stronger, and he just seems to use it to just throw people out the way. Because one thing I'll say right now, the Infinity Gauntlet and what the stones do is not very clear, and one of my biggest issues, I'll get it out the way, is just that Thanos will do something really over the top powerful with the gauntlet, especially with the reality stone. He'll just, you know, wish people away out of reality, but then spend the rest of the film hitting people. Don't establish these incredible powers and then not use them, because then it makes people go, well, why aren't you using it? In the comic book, they kind of established that he's using the gauntlet to just wish people away and do all these incredible things. But because he's trying to impress Mistress Death in the comic, he kind of rationalises that, oh, it's too easy. If I'm there using these gems, it's too easy, and that's not impressive, so he'll turn some of the gems off. He kind of nerfs his own power. In this, there's no explanation. The opening scene really sets up a lot of things. For one, we get a Hulk fight. Straight away, Hulk just turns up and starts fighting Thanos, and Thanos kicks the shit into him. This displays how strong Thanos is, and it makes this incredible storyline where this is all the Hulk we get in this film. Hulk gets his ass kicked. Heimdall actually uses the Bifrost to send him to Earth as like a get him out of here, he can warn everybody. But Hulk doesn't appear. And my theory was, because Banner keeps trying to turn into the Hulk, and the Hulk's face appears, and Hulk goes, nope. I think Hulk is terrified of Thanos. Somebody just kicked the shit into him. That's never happened before. And I think he doesn't want to come out because he's scared, he's hurt. And that's such an interesting plot for the Hulk. But also, all the Asgardians are dead. Valkyrie and Korg, no idea where they are. We don't see them. They can only be presumed dead because they're nowhere else, which is a bit upsetting. We see, obviously, Loki gives up the Tesseract. So Thanos has the Space Stone, which basically can just teleport him around. With Loki, you're just waiting to see what's he going to do. Is he good? Is he bad? He hands over the Tesseract so that Thor will be spared. And on top of that, he tries to stab Thanos, and Thanos actually picks Loki up and just chokes him out. And he goes red and his eyes are popping out, and it's quite gory, and Loki just dies. And Thanos even says, no resurrections this time. And you're like, oh, you know, the film really hits you hard straight away. And then Thanos and his children just sort of leave, and obviously that just leaves Thor there in this explosion and all this rubble to go and fly off for later. Heimdall as well, after sending Hulk off, he gets stabbed and is no more. With the point I made about Hulk being afraid, yeah, it leaves Banner just kind of being Banner and trying to help as best as he can and feeding everyone information, being like, this guy is coming and he's going to just kill everybody. And obviously we see him use the Hulkbuster in Wakanda and he likes it. He's like, it's like being the Hulk, only I'm still me. The only other big Hulk point I can think of while I'm talking about him, we get a tiny reunion between him and Black Widow, where he just kind of says, I'm back, and they smile at each other, and this is later on in the film. I wanted more from it, but I guess, like, in a time of war, that would be interrupted, and there's a lot of character interactions that are cut short or just don't happen. Like, they tease Tony and Steve throughout, and they never actually get to meet in the film, which is quite gutting. So, Thanos and his children. So, you've got Moore, you've got Obsidian, you've got Midnight, and you've got Glaive. I loved the way that the Black Order looked. Hated the fact that we never really hear their names, and their relationships to each other aren't ever explained. They're just like mini-bosses. They're henchmen. And that's it, which was disappointing. But they got some awesome action set pieces. And Ebony Maw actually got quite a lot of dialogue to say. You saw just how devoted to Thanos he was. His power set was incredible. And he was one of the few ones that really was able to easily take on the Avengers. All the others kind of get their asses kicked by people like Black Widow, which I'm like, they should be a lot stronger than they are portrayed in the film. Thanos is interesting. He's both similar to the comic, but also being very different. His motivation is he wants to wipe out half the life in the universe, but not for Mistress Death. There is no Mistress Death. He wants to do it because he says that resources are running out, and if you just kill half of the universe, those resources are now doubled, and planets that were poor now become rich, and that's kind of what he's been doing. Going from planet to planet, killing half, and he's saying, look how great the planet is now. And he realises if he collects all 6 stones, he can snap his fingers, and then that's it, it's done. He can just use that power to kill half the universe. And we're going, okay, so his motivations, even though they're mad, aren't all that evil. And his relationship with Gamora as well, as I'll touch on later, you'll see that through Gamora we feel some sympathy to Thanos. He is the best MCU villain because you're like really conflicted. The way he does things is very evil, but his motivations aren't always evil. We get to see these flashback scenes of when he just kind of takes a shining to Gamora when she's a kid, because he's like, oh yeah, she's a fighter, you can be with me and I'll look after you. And, you know, he obviously went to her planet and killed half the population, but he kind of manipulates her and takes care of her and obviously builds her into this warrior and had horrible methods doing it, but you can see he cares about Gamora. For me, he was just a very compelling villain, and I like as well that he's just straight up strong. You know, like when he was fighting Hulk, he was just kicking Hulk's ass, and it was really cool to watch. Also, probably worth noting that actually all of the Black Order die, which was quite mad. Hulk crashes down into the Sanctum. He makes it onto Earth, and this is when he says, you know, Thanos is coming, and Doctor Strange actually appears to Tony through a portal and is like, right, you're coming with me because we're going to need your help. And they sort of discuss, what are we going to do? And Strange in this film, his whole thing is, I need to protect the Time Stone, and Wong's with him on that. Wong basically, as soon as they go off on their adventure, Wong's like, well, I need to stay and protect the Sanctum, so he's only in it for a little bit. But yeah, Strange says, I need to protect the Time Stone, I don't care who dies or what happens, it needs to be protected. He ends up actually getting captured by Ebony Maw, because there's 2 stones on Earth, so Thanos is like, children, go and get them for me. So they just capture Strange, take him off into the spaceship, and Tony and Spidey both end up following. Strange and Tony just have the best kind of interactions, because they both constantly like, we're not friends, this is just a professional courtesy here. They're both having a go at each other for being arrogant. Doctor Strange straight up just has a go at Tony. Through everything, through the little smirks at each other, it's just such an incredible kind of friendship you see develop between the two of them. And there was a little part where I think it was Tony says, I concur, which was a very Sherlock-esque thing to say, and they were both Sherlock, so that's cool. Spider-Man's introduction actually really surprised me. I assumed Peter was going to go straight to the ship and like already have the Iron Spider suit, but he doesn't. Tony's fighting the Black Order in like a park, and all of a sudden Spider-Man's just like, hey Tony, what's up, what's going on? And Tony flies out the Iron Spider suit for when they're up on the ship, because it helps Peter breathe in space, which is useful. Spider-Man didn't really get an awful lot. Some of my favourite reactions were between him and Star-Lord. So Star-Lord references Footloose, and he's like, is it still the greatest movie of all time? And Pete goes, it was never that. And I like his little interactions, and the biggest Spider-Man moment comes at the end for me. So Peter, Tony, and Strange are up in space, and basically Tony decides, let's just go take the fight to Thanos. He's not going to expect that. You saw what the Black Order's done to Earth. They decimated it. So let's take the fight to him. We see that Wanda and Vision have actually got together now. They're a couple, and they've been secretly meeting up and then reporting back to their individual Avengers teams. And the big thing with them throughout the film is just, Vision is like, you need to just kill me. You need to destroy the Mind Stone. They theorised that because Wanda's powers came from the Mind Stone, she's capable of doing it, but she doesn't want to kill Vision. And that's kind of their emotional battle that they're going through. Black Order turn up, try to take the Mind Stone, and this is where Cap, Widow, and Falcon then show up to kind of step in, save the day. The Mind Stone, from what I can tell, because it's the last stone Thanos gets, we don't really know what it does, but it's supposed to grant, like, intelligence and also, like, telekinesis and whatnot in the comics. But I'm guessing it's just more intelligence in this one. But yeah, Cap's entrance is very much like bloomin' Dumbledore's in Half-Blood Prince, when the train's going by and then he just appears. It was Bruce that actually calls Cap and those Avengers, because he has the burner phone that Tony was given at the end of Civil War. And Bruce says there's, like, Vision isn't just the Mind Stone. Maybe if we can remove it safely, he'll still be Vision. Wanda destroys the Mind Stone, happy days. And Cap says we need to go to Wakanda because Shuri will be able to sort this out. Wish we saw more of Cap. He gets some really good moments. We see how strong he is when he's holding back Thanos, when Thanos has the gauntlet and the stones. And he just has some, like, really funny moments. Like, Thor comes down and he's like, oh, Thor, and Thor's saying, have you met my friend the tree? And obviously it's Groot who says, I am Groot. And Cap, in complete bewilderment, just goes, I am Steve Rogers. He has little nice moments like that, but we don't really see an awful lot of him. We just kind of see him meeting people like Vision, War Machine and whatnot, and he's just happy to see them, even though they weren't really talking. Black Widow has some badass moments. She's a lot more serious and just done with shit by this point. One of her best moments comes when Midnight is attacking Scarlet and she says, you're on your own. And then Black Widow's like, she's not on her own. And it's Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, and the main Wakandan warrior that hangs out with Black Panther, whose name I can never remember. And they fight Midnight, and it's just a really cool, like, girl power moment. Falcon really doesn't get a lot to do other than being there, to be honest. He's one of those characters where he's in it, it's cool to see him, but he doesn't really do anything. They then go back to the Avengers base, and Rhodey's there, and we see him talking to General Ross, a hologram of General Ross. So I was like, cool, he's in this film. And General Ross's reaction is like, arrest Captain America, and they're criminals, and blah blah blah. They do mention the Accords, and they're like, yeah, but the world's on fire. And Cap's like, look, we're doing what we want. The universe is in danger. We'll fight anybody. We'll fight you, but we're doing this. We then see the Guardians pick up Thor, obviously, and then they split into two teams. You've got most of the Guardians, however, Groot and Rocket go with Thor. And what they do is they actually go to the forge where Thor's hammer was made, and they meet, I think his name is Eitri, if I'm pronouncing that right, who's Peter Dinklage's character in this. He's a giant dwarf, which is weird. But they're able to form Thor's new hammer, Stormbreaker, and this is where Groot gets his big moment, because Teenage Groot's kind of crap, but they need a way of putting the new Stormbreaker hammer axe together, and Groot actually cuts off his own arm and sort of allows it to become the handle, so that was cool. And Rocket throughout is just cracking wise and whatnot, and he really kind of gets on with Thor. Thor calls him a rabbit throughout, and he just kind of goes with it, and he seems to think that, like, Thor's really cool. And Thor just does a lot of badass things. Obviously, Thor gets put through the ringer in this film, and he needs to, like, hold the forge open while the dying star, like, heats everything up to make this new weapon. So Thor's just there while the power of a star is like burning him. So Thor's just badass in this. And then the three of them, the new weapon can actually access the Bifrost, so they go down to Wakanda and then they become part of that fight. Star-Lord, Gamora, Mantis and Drax head over to protect the Reality Stone to make sure Thanos doesn't have it. However, when they get there, it all goes weird, because Gamora runs up and she stabs Thanos, and you think it's over, but it was all an illusion. He already had the Reality Stone. And Gamora and Star-Lord have a lot of emotional moments in this film, because Gamora was saying, if Thanos gets me, just kill me. And Star-Lord actually goes to, he pulls the trigger, and his gun turns into bubbles because of Thanos and the Reality Stone. And Thanos is like, do you know what, I like you. And he just takes Gamora, and this leads into more scenes of him just sort of being quite sweet towards Gamora. You know, he tries giving her food and she throws it away, and she's like, I hated my life and I hate you, and he's like, I know, you tell me this every day. And this weird kind of relationship that they have. The thing is, like, with the Reality Stone, Thanos is able to just, like, pretty much kill Drax and Mantis straight up with it, but then he doesn't do that later on, and it just irritated me. Yeah, it was weird, because Star-Lord and Gamora are now, like, a couple in this film, just kind of out of nowhere. They built it up in the Guardians films, but the payoff is in this one, so it holds a lot more weight when, like, she gets taken, and Star-Lord's really torn up about the position he's been put in. And Star-Lord has some amazing moments with Thor, because he feels quite threatened and jealous by Thor, and a lot of the comedy comes from their interactions together. During this time, Nebula was actually captured by Thanos and tortured, and Thanos uses that to make Gamora tell him where the Soul Stone is, because he trusted Gamora to gather the stones for him, and he's like, I know you actually found the Soul Stone, so tell me where it is, and she does, and then those two sort of go off to go and collect that, and Nebula's able to escape and tells Star-Lord's little team, meet me on Titan, and we're going to fight Thanos. So Thanos and Gamora go to where the Soul Stone's being kept, and this is my favourite part of the film, because this kind of hooded figure turns up, and I thought, right, who's this? This is a big surprise character, and I'm racking my brains, who could this be? And it was Red Skull, and I lost my shit. He's in this film, and it's incredible, and it's the idea that the Infinity Stones kind of almost rejected him, so he was sent to this planet at the end of Captain America, and he's like, well, I'm a guardian here now, and the Soul Stone's here, but to get the Soul Stone, you've got to sacrifice something you truly love, and then you can have it. And Red Skull's like, I don't love anything, so basically I just have to guard something that I can never have. And it's like the Stones kind of punished him and rejected him. But this is another one of those weird moments, because Gamora's like, Thanos doesn't love anything, and he kills her and gets the Soul Stone, and it breaks his heart. He's so distraught. And again, you're like, whoa, this is a very deep villain, because he actually did love this daughter of his, even though to her she hates him. But we get to see points that I'm fairly certain are inside Soul World, because we see Gamora inside Soul World, but like child Gamora, and we see Thanos in there as well, and it's interesting. Tony and Spider-Man have saved Doctor Strange, and they decide to go to Titan in as much as the ship's on like an autopilot and it crashes there anyway. So they turn up, meet up with that group of Guardians. Again, we get some great interactions, especially between Tony and Star-Lord, and it's at this point where Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone and says, I just looked at millions, if not billions, of futures, and there's only one where we kind of win. And they start fighting Thanos, and they actually do a pretty good job until Star-Lord realises Gamora's not here, and he realises she's dead, and he loses his shit, ruins the plan, because they almost had the gauntlet off of Thanos. Yeah, it all kind of goes to shit. Thanos fights back. He actually stabs Tony, and I was like, oh shit, is Tony gonna die? No, because Doctor Strange says if you spare him, I'll give you the Time Stone. Gives up the Time Stone, and he's like, I had to do that. And you're like, is he putting into motion that plan where they will actually win? We have the battle in Wakanda, which honestly isn't as big as I thought it was going to be, but it's still pretty cool. We get to see all those great tribes and characters from the Black Panther movie come back, which was very exciting to see. We see Bucky, and obviously he's got his new vibranium arm. He's all better, and he's the White Wolf now. And, you know, it's nice seeing him reunited with Cap. There's a moment where he picks Rocket up, and they start turning around firing, and Rocket's like, I want your arm, and everyone guessed he was going to do that. We see that Shuri is pretty much the smartest person in the MCU, which I really like, because she's talking about how Vision's put together, and she's like, yeah, I'll take the stone out, but why didn't you put him together this way instead? And Bruce is like, we didn't think of that. But yeah, Black Panther's just happy to sort of facilitate the Avengers. It all comes down to, let's defend the Mind Stone. Shuri's going to remove it. Wanda will destroy it. Thanos can't finish his plan, and we'll just try and beat him here. And it's that big final battle. It gets down to a point where Thanos himself turns up, because obviously he's able to just teleport there, and Wanda actually does kill Vision. She destroys the stone, and it's a very emotional, weighty moment. Thanos just turns time back and rips the stone out of Vision's head, killing Vision again, but this time it's not as dramatic, it's just straight up, and that's it. The Infinity Gauntlet is completed, and he can just put his plan into motion, which he does, and he's able to just snap his fingers. He disappears, and half the life in the universe gets wiped out. He does it because obviously they're just fighting him, because they're like, someone needs to distract him, and Thor ends up just stabbing him with the axe, and he's like, I've done it, but Thanos is like, you should have just cut off my head, and then is able to change everything. A lot of people then die, including Bucky, Drax, Groot, Mantis, Wanda, Peter Quill, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Falcon, and they're all just sort of turning to dust and disappearing. And obviously everyone is reacting to it, everyone is upset, because they're like, well, what's going on? And this is happening across just people disappearing. The weightiest death. And obviously throughout this film, there's so many emotional points, but this was what really broke me down into tears. Tony's there and he's looking round and everyone's dying, you know, and then Spider-Man's like, I don't feel so good, and you're just like, no, not Spider-Man, and he just cries and he hugs Tony and he's like, I don't want to go, and you see Tony's eyes being like, I've watched people die, but not a child, not the kid, not Peter. And then he lies Peter down and Peter just goes, I'm sorry, Tony. Like, he feels like he's failed. And then he dies. And everyone was like, that's a hard-hitting death. This is the low point in the film. You know, in most films, we have this moment and then the heroes come back and fix everything. But they all die. We see that Thanos is sat very much like at the end of Infinity Gauntlet. He's sat and he's content, and the film ended. And I loved this film. Little plot points, like the Infinity Stones, what can they do? Why isn't he using them? There's these little plot points that may not add up, but you don't care, because these character interactions are perfect, and the action's perfect, and it's so amazing, and it nods to everything that's come before. But this was where I just felt cheated, because they announced it, Infinity War Part 1, Part 2. I went, okay, two-parter. When they dropped that and they said, well, they're two very different films, and I thought, oh, I guess then we're getting two whole films. But no, it's a two-parter, which means we've now got to wait a year, which means it ended on a giant cliffhanger, and it sucked. I felt so disappointed. After this movie that I've just loved, I was disappointed. And I don't feel as bad now, like I'm going to have to wait the year, but my instant thought was just, I can't deal with this. And the first post-credit scene wasn't there. There wasn't one. And I went, they're not going to give us a post-credit scene, are they? And they did. And we were like, come on, just something. Nick Fury and Maria Hill, okay, cool, but I don't care enough right now. I need something bigger. And they crash, and you think, who's in this car? What characters are going to be? But it's nobody. And things start crashing, and you realise it's, you know, people are disappearing. Maria disappears, Nick disappears, and you see he's got a little signal send-out device that has the Captain Marvel logo appear. Okay, cool, you called Carol. She's going to come help. But I knew that. The post-credit scene should have been something to just uplift us again and leave us going home happy. But I don't hate this film. I feel all over the place still. I just don't know how to feel about the film. There were more people that were supposed to be in it whose scenes got cut, you know, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Happy Hogan, like I said, Valkyrie, Korg. There was the guy with the fin, not Yondu, the guy that took Yondu's fin. Like, where did he go? But they've said characters that weren't very prominent in this one will be more prominent in the next one, because it establishes Hawkeye and Ant-Man were on house arrest and with their families after Civil War. But why wouldn't they come and join the fight? These heroes will be resurrected, but then where do you stop? You know, can you bring back Loki? Can you bring back all the Asgardians? If they're going to start bringing people back to life, surely they could just bring back everyone. So I don't know what they're going to do. They're not going to stick to it, surely, and have all those characters stay dead. They could. Oh, but there's a Spider-Man trilogy. Yeah, Miles Morales is going to be Spider-Man in the next Spider-Man film instead. They'll establish him in Avengers 4. Oh, but Guardians 3. Yeah, we've still got some Guardians left. Iron Man could just go off with the Guardians. There's, they could do anything at this point. And I'm wondering what the title's going to be for Avengers 4. And I just want it to come out now. I'm assuming Ant-Man and Wasp takes place straight after kind of Civil War and just before Infinity War. That would make sense. We've got some other cool films coming out like Deadpool 2 and whatnot, but this was the film that I was so excited for, because to me, I was really thinking about it, about what the MCU is. I mean, I was late watching the MCU. I didn't start watching it for a while because I was very used to kind of being let down by most superhero films. And especially when they were like, Iron Man's coming out. I was like, Iron Man's some kind of damn CD lister. Like, I'm not going to bother. And it was in media studies class that I watched it. And we watched the opening scene and I was like, this is the best thing ever. So I watched that. I'd already seen Hulk because he's my favourite. So I watched Iron Man 2. And then I had enough time to watch Thor and Captain America on DVD before Avengers came out. And the first Avengers was the first film I saw in cinemas. I'm extremely invested in the MCU. It's something that I really look forward to. You know, it's just, I adore it. I adore everything about it. You know, the small part of humanity that I actually have left. It's all been put into Marvel instead of, like, people and, you know, career aspirations. It's just all Marvel. And for me, the MCU is just what made it cool to be a comic book nerd. Now everyone is wearing Spider-Man shirts and Iron Man shirts and these characters that people would not know about and scoff at you for reading about, you know, are pop culture icons like never before. This was supposed to be the culmination. It's not. It's part one of the culmination. So we're just going to have to wait for Avengers 4. And then, yeah, obviously the CGI is solid throughout. And the music is used perfectly. Like, at the right times when Spider-Man is dubbed an Avenger and when Thor turns up in Wakanda, they use the Avengers theme. And you're just like, yes. But that's it. That's my thoughts on the film. I'm not going to go on anymore. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. The social media links are in the description down below. And guys, maybe next year, somebody will finally say, Avengers Assemble.